Hi, in this video we'll be continuing with the C# video tutorials. So we'll be talking about passing arguments by reference. So we've talked about these in the notes, so we'll do some more examples. So when an argument is passed by reference to a method, the method can change the value of the argument in the calling part of the program. So I guess it's a way to change the value. So we'll do an example of this because I wasn't able to explain this properly in the notes, so I said we'd do some examples later on. So when you want a method to change, or when you want a method to be able to change the value of a variable that is passed to it as an argument. So that's the point of it. So you can pass an argument to a method parameter that's going to change the value. I'm not sure why you'd need to do this. You may need to. There's a way to do it in C#. You have to use the, I think it's ref keyword. So the variable must be passed by reference in C#. There are two ways to pass the argument by reference. You can use a reference parameter in the method, or you can use an output parameter in the method. So using reference parameters, a reference parameter is a special type of parameter variable. When you pass an argument into a ref param, or reference parameter, the reference parameter does not receive a copy of the argument's value. Instead, it becomes a reference to the argument that was passed into it. So let's just skip the definition. So let's just try to do a hands-on example. Okay, so let's just see what I have here. So let's just say we have some code notes below here. Is it slash asterisk and then asterisk slash close? Okay, so those are multi-line comments. I've used those before, obviously. So let's just say, pretend we have private void, let's say set to 0, and let's say we have ref, for example, int val. So ref, we're taking a parameter ref int val. So remember, that's for the method definition. So let's just say we set val to point to 0. Inside the parentheses here, the keyword ref indicates that val is a reference variable. This method assigns 0 to the val parameter through accessing the parameter by just calling it. There's a trick to that. The reason why is because there could be another variable named that. In Java you can use a this keyword. You might be able to use a this keyword in C#. So we haven't really done an example of that, but you can always change these names if you have another variable named val in here, or a global one, like a field. I think the one in here in the method needs to be different. But if you have a global field, you may be able to use a this keyword or something similar. We haven't really done that yet, but there'll probably be times when that happens to you. I'm not sure if this keyword would work. I don't want to start getting into something else. When we talk about it later on, perhaps when we talk about using, for example, having a field and a parameter with the same name, we may have an example, so let's just save that for later. But for now, we can reference val just like this. Okay, so let's see what else we can do. So inside the parentheses, the keyword ref indicates that val is a reference variable. This method assigns 0 to the val parameter. Because val is a reference parameter, this action is usually performed on the variable that was passed to the method as an argument. When you call a method that has a reference parameter, you must also write the keyword ref before the argument. So we can demonstrate that down here. So we could say that we have, for example, int var points to some value or some variable value. Then we could call set to 0. We could pass in ref var. So it's a little confusing. I'm not sure why you need to do this. But we may see another code example with this later on. So let's just see if we can understand really why they need to do this. So the first statement declares var as an int variable, initialized with the value 100. The second statement calls the set to 0 method, passing var by reference. After the method call, the var variable is set to the value 0. Because remember, the method itself sets the value to 0, or var in this case. When you pass an argument to a ref parameter, that argument must already be set to some value. For example, if the variable has not been initialized or assigned a value, you cannot pass it as an argument into a ref parameter. The following code sample causes a compiler error. So it's basically if we just didn't initialize this to 100 and just declared it and then passed it, that would have caused an error. So let's look at a complete program that uses the set to 0 method. So let's try to do a bigger example here. So there's a list box and one button. So it's a go button. I don't think we really need to completely do this. How much code we got here? Nothing crazy. Okay, so let's maybe just try to do this here. So let's say we have I don't want to do this in the drag and drop, but I'm wondering if we can declare one and then kind of just place it somewhere. I don't think that really updates in the code. I've tried. I don't think that works because it's not XML as we said before. There's a way to use C# with XML. Sorry, I just have to click whatever that is. Add solution to reference, project reference button. That might take a sec. Okay, so let's continue with that. Sorry, so that's loaded now. Okay, so let's try to... I don't want to spend too much time doing stuff we've already done. Like, actually, maybe I haven't showed you this, but we could define a list box here like this. List box, points to new, actually, so just list box. This should be private, I guess. So private list box. And then in the constructor we can initialize a list box, so we can say, actually, whoops, private list box should have a name. List box, and then here we can say list box points to new list box, should be with capital. So list box points, what's wrong with this? Private list box. Let's use a capital there when I shouldn't have. Okay, there we go. What's wrong with that? Private list box points to new list. What's wrong with this here? I've already done this a bunch of times. Symbol list box, why is it a symbol? That's dumb. List box points to new, what the heck is wrong with that? Oh, the stupid thing spelled wrong. It's like, what the hell is wrong with that? Okay, so we have that. Now we can... I don't think we can actually access it. Could we? Because we're still going to use a drag and drop, so that would be dumb anyways. So let's just say we have a button too. The private button, go button, then we'll have here, we can initialize that. Go button points to new button. We could set the name and all that stuff. Stupid thing spelled wrong again. So go button points to new button. That's fine. So we could set a point for this. We could place them all. How did we do this last time? That's okay. So we could basically just set this to well, we could use a point here. So let me just pull that up. One sec. Okay. Okay, so we could have, so we could call location, so we could say list box dot location points a new point, I think. Then we say it's on a like a axis, so let's just say one's 200 by 100, x and y. Then we could say that go button also points to, or sorry, go button dot location points to new point 200 by 200. Let's just say if we could stack them somehow. The problem with this, you have to keep, like when you do it this way, you have to keep running it to check if it's in the right spot, because it doesn't like update automatically like in XML. For example, in Android Studio, there's a way to do this. Excuse me. There's a way to do it. So what I mean by that is that when you write code here, it doesn't automatically update the design window. For example, in Android Studio, there's a way to use C# with XML. There's a special name for it, which it does update the designer window. So this is kind of the old school way to do it. It doesn't update automatically. You have to run it to check. So it's kind of like an old school compiler kind of thing. Okay, so anyways, let's just set those names first. So you can go listbox.name points to a listbox. This stupid thing doesn't even. Should be camel cased. And listbox, and listbox. Listbox.name points to, we want this camel case the same way. So you have to do this to set the identifier, because that's just an object reference variable. May not set properly, so I just do this just in case. Then, so this is the name property that we've used in the drag and drop, the identifier. So here I'll say goButton.name points to goButton as well. Now listbox and goButton are set. Then here you have to add the controls. So you just go controls dot add. If I can spell that right, controls dot add. Then you want to add, for example, listbox. Then we go controls dot add. We can go goButton. Okay, so let's just see if that works. Alright. Sorry, so that finally has loaded. So it's not perfect. The size would have to be changed, the button size would all have to be changed. So let's just, don't worry about that for now, so we got something. So what is this code exactly getting at? Did I use a list box in my other code? No, I used a save file dialog. Okay, so don't worry, we're gonna do this both labs. Everything's gonna look fine in another demonstration, but that's just how to create the start you off with creating some objects by code completely. So let's just pretend we have that method. So let's add that set to 0 method in here. So let's go under the constructor, under there. So let's say we want to have that private void set to 0 method. That's why we can always just use the design window, add the controls, and then reference the properties and all that in the constructor too. That works. That may glitch out the design window though, so it seemed like that happened last time. But anyways, let's just say we have private void set to 0. Let's say we have ref int val. So we have a reference int val method, or sorry, it takes a reference int val parameter. Then let's just say we set that val to 0. That's really all we want to do. I want to change the size. Of that list box. So let's just say we want, okay, so we want list box dot size points to let's just say 200 by 200. That's not gonna work, is it? No. That can work. No. New size, we have to say new size. Oh, whoops, what the hell did I just click? Listbox.size points to new size. Does that work? 200 by 200, does that work? There we go, that works. Let's try that. That's going to be the size of the window, though. That's going to be probably too big. Okay, it did work. What happened to our button? Oh, okay, I think the problem with this is that we have overlapping happening. Let's just pretend we didn't. So let's just pretend we go 400 by 400. Try that. I know you guys can't see it. Sorry, I should have done this in OBS Studio instead of using Windows Recorder. It's working now, so let me just get something up. So that's actually working fine now. So let's go with a button that's under that. What's under that? 300 by... Let's go with like 400. No, that's... Maybe let's go with this 300 by 300 and go with the button at 400 by 400. Let's see what happens there. I can always move that list box up as well. Okay, we got some in here. Looks kind of like two random blocks, but let's go with 100 by 100, see if that helps. Okay, perfect. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's working. So let's just go X, which one's Y? 200. Let's try this. Nope, that's worse. Let's go with whatever. I had it the first time, but I forgot what that was. This is fine, so let's just maybe change some button controls. Button. Let me just change some properties here for the button itself. Okay, so the button itself, we have a location. So we can go button dot text points to go button. That should be fine. Go button dot auto size, set that to true. We'll go button dot font points to new font. We'll say go button dot font family, comma 36. Let's see what that does. Okay, so we got something here. That's fine. Now let me add some things to the list box here. Okay, so let's add some properties to the list box. Okay, so we're gonna go with this method here. Nope. Oh, you know what? Sorry, we have to do one more thing. I just want to set up that event handler with the cool way to code it instead of just using the drag and drop. So how did I do that before? Okay, so there's a way we have to do this. So underneath this line of code here, go button.font, we'll create a new line here. So then we'll say go button.click. That's going to be an event handler. that it knows that we want to create a click event. So go button dot click plus equals new event handler. Then here we'll say go button. We're gonna want to call it go button underscore click. It's not gonna know what that is. So go button underscore click. That should be everything. Then for example under here we'll go private void go button underscore click, takes parameter object sender and event args e. That's working. Okay, perfect. Then here we'll declare some local int variables. So we'll say int x points to 100, y points to 101, and z points to 102. Okay, so then we want to say list box dot items dot clear. It's going to refresh it every time. Then we want list box dot items dot add. We'll say x is set to comma. Oh, whoops. Plus x, comma x does not work. Huh. Comma doesn't work. Why doesn't comma work? Does a comma not work? Or I'm thinking of another language syntax, I think. Okay. Can you not do this even in Java? I thought you could. String then a comma, that should work in C++. Perhaps because this is looking for an item. No, it's not a print statement. Okay, so let's just go with that. Plus x. Listbox.items.add, x is set to plus x, and we'll go listbox.items.add. Then we'll go y is set to plus y. Then listbox.items.add in a string, set is set to. You see, it is a print statement though, so like not 100%, but it's a string. Should work the same way. So sometimes if the comma doesn't work, you can just use a plus. I think that actually may be correct. C# more like Java, maybe C++, and C actually you can do it with commas. Not C, but C++. That's in the MQL5 syntax of C++, which is a framework of C++. For building like finance apps and bots and all that. But that sometimes I forget, like between Python, C, C#, Java, Android. Sometimes they're similar, but they're a little bit different. C is going to be the one that's the most different. But anyways, after that, so then we'll say set to 0. Then we'll pass in refx. We'll say set to 0, pass in then refy. Then set to 0, refz. Okay, so we'll then display the values in those variables again. So here we could say output no, sorry, not output, list box dot items dot add. We'll just kind of add this symbol thing here. Actually, that might be too much for the list box. Hopefully it all fits, so we'll have to make it bigger otherwise. So then here we'll say listbox.items.add. X is set to plus X. Let me copy this line. That's okay, so I'll just write it out. So listbox.items.add. Y is set to plus Y. Listbox.items.add. Z is set to plus Z. Listbox.items.add, so Z is set to plus Z. That should be all, so let's just run it and see what happens. There we go, so we got something in there. The font size is wrong. Okay, too small. Let me change that somehow. Go back to the constructor here. Okay, list box. We could just do it under here, I guess. So the font, listbox.font, points to new font. Listbox.font. This one's a little bit tricky. .font family, comma 36. No, that's gonna be too big. Let's just go with 12 and see if that works. Let's try that. Okay, it's getting bigger. Go with like 18, see if that works. Too big, okay. Perhaps that was too big because it's not showing now. Let me go with 14. Is auto size not set? I don't think there is an auto size. Okay, something's happening to that now. It did work, then it stopped. Oh, you know what? I didn't even click the go button, that's why. My bad. Let me change this to 18 again. Click run. Then I'll click the go button. There we go, okay. So it says X is set to 100, Y is set to 101, Z is set to 102, and then it sets everything to 0. That's pretty much it. I'm not really seeing the point of it. I think you can get by C# without the ref keyword. I don't really see the point of this. Private void set to 0. Let's just see what my notes have as notes on this. Okay, so let's just see what they have to say. So notice that the form has a list box control named listbox. The list box is used to display the program's output. The set to 0 method that we discussed accepts an int argument by reference and assigns the value 0 to the argument. So the method accepts an int argument by reference and assigns the value 0 to the argument. The method accepts an int argument by reference. Assigns the value 0 to the argument. Okay. Set to 0 method. Where is the set to 0 method? Okay. So we have the method accepts an int argument right here. I think they messed that up. No. Okay, so if we're calling it set to 0. So that's okay, that's the argument there. The method accepts an int argument by reference and assigns a value 0 to the argument. Okay. In the go button underscore click method, declares an int variable x, y, and z. The initial and initialize them to the values 100, 101, and 102. Then we clear the list box control, display the values in the list box. X, y, and z variables are passed as arguments by reference to the set to 0 method. Okay. Okay, so each time set to 0 is called a variable that is passed as an argument is assigned the value 0. So then it says when the x, y, and z variables are displayed again, then it shows the... Okay, so that's just showing that the button has been clicked. So I'm not really seeing 100% the point of the reference argument or reference parameter. That's pretty much the demonstration of it. So in the next video, we'll be continuing on with using output parameters. So this example kind of got into a lab, but hopefully that maybe helped you. So thanks for watching, guys. If you guys liked the video, you can like and subscribe to the channel for more programming and investing tutorials. And in the next video, we'll be going over output parameters. Hopefully I'll see you guys there. Take care.